week. We'll just give you a little bit of a sense of what we're up to here. This show is our weekly update for our clients, our associates, our affiliates, and our friends to keep them up to date on what's happening in the world of Ontario government, Ontario politics, and especially the Ontario election, which will take place on June the 7th. Once again, we're coming to you live. We are unfiltered, unedited. This is raw, and you're seeing it as it happens. Since our last show, last Friday at noon, we went off at about 1 o'clock, and about 2 hours later, Patrick Brown announced that he would re-enter the race for the PC leadership, which he, of course, vacated on January the 25th. A committee of the PC party, I guess, has vetted that candidacy and approved him to run. So that all happened literally right after our show went off the air last week. This week, we've had 3 new polls published about Ontario politics, Forum, Research, Main Street, and Ipsos. All released polls, and they were all consistent in showing the PC party of Ontario with a lead amongst the public in terms of who they would vote for if an election were held today. Of course, on Tuesday, 3 days ago, the legislature came back in session. The PCs are currently led by interim leader Vic Fideli, Liberals by Premier Kathleen Wynne, of course, and the NDP by Andrea Horwath. So the business of the legislature has resumed. This will be the last legislative session before the June 7th election. I guess the other important thing for you to know is that we did have our first leaders debate amongst the candidates for the PC party leadership. The next one will take place on Wednesday, February the 28th. It'll take place in Ottawa. And one of the people that will be on that stage and behind those podiums, the person who is seeking the leadership of the PC party, a candidate, is Doug Ford. Doug joins us today here at Sussex, and Doug, thank you very much for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me on.
How's it going so far?
Going great. It's phenomenal. The response when I'm going to these towns across Ontario is just incredible. Every single place we go to is absolutely packed, and their people are ticked off right now. They're fed up. They're fed up with all the taxes, reckless spending with their hard-earned tax dollars. And when I'm Premier, I'm going to put an end to that. I'm going to start respecting the taxpayers, putting money back into the taxpayers' pocket instead of the government's.
Okay. So not too long ago, about a month, a little more than a month ago, you were sitting in your office somewhere and maybe planning out your strategy or campaign to run for the mayor's position.
That's right.
In the city of Toronto, and then this series of events happened towards the end of January. Why did you feel it was important for you to make the jump from municipal politics to provincial politics?
Well, no one could predict the situation would all be in the PC party. And I think we need someone to step up to the plate and be a principled leader. I can help not only the people of Toronto, but everyone in Ontario, being the Premier opposed to being the Mayor of Toronto. But the PC party clearly is in a total mess. And we need a strong leader to unite the party, move forward and defeat Kathleen Wynne. And I'll move forward, I'll unite the party, and I'll defeat Kathleen Wynne.
Okay, and for people who don't know, I think most of us remember your time as a city councillor, prominent city councillor of Toronto, and your late brother Rob was the mayor at the time, but some people may not know or have forgotten that your father was actually a member of the provincial legislature as well.
He was the class of '95. I think it was the best team the PC's parties ever had, as far as I can remember. They went from, I believe it was 22 seats up to 82 seats. They had 60 new members, 60 very business-minded people go down there, and they ended up saving the taxpayers a lot of money. After the NDP regime destroyed it.
Doug Ford Sr.?
Yes.
I think his riding was in Etobicoke.
Etobicoke as well. We're very fortunate, Joe, and we're very grateful to the people of Etobicoke for putting faith into our family. And we love serving not just the people of Etobicoke, but everyone across Ontario.
Okay. Now, subsequent to that term, at the end of that term, you declared your candidacy for mayor of Toronto, and in a fairly abbreviated campaign period, I think most of us remember the circumstances.
That's right.
You received 331,000 votes in the city of Toronto. So clearly in this contest now, you're known for sure in this city, and people know kind of what you're about and your style of government. Are you concerned in this really abbreviated campaign period, which normally party leaderships might take 6, 9, even 12 months to have the whole contest? Here you're talking about weeks.
Yeah.
Are you concerned that you've had enough time for people in the rest of the province to get to know you and what your candidacy is about?
Well, everywhere I'm going, it's overwhelming. No matter if I'm in Lindsay or Peterborough going in a local store, the response is incredible. I believe myself, the PC party shortened this race to prohibit me from signing up more people. I can sign up more people, 10 times more people than all the candidates combined. And they cut it off for 2 weeks. But we still went out there and signed up thousands and thousands of members. Matter of fact, we signed up new members, more new members than all the candidates. We signed up members that were traditional NDP voters, traditional Liberal voters, and fiscal conservatives that were disenfranchised with the party. So, you know, again, we're going to clean out the establishment, the elites of our party that have been running the system for a number of years, probably over 20, 25 years. And those same people have lost the elections for 15 years. We need a change. I'm going to make sure we talk about the grassroots people getting in there, and the establishment, the elites, they can pack their bags and they're on their way out.
So I want to ask you about that, because on the day you announced your candidacy to be the leader of the PC party, you made a statement, at least it was reported, and again,
Yes.
one of the benefits of this setup is there's no media filter here, so
That's
whatever you say, that's what people are going to hear. You made a statement that the elites of the party didn't really want you in
That's
this
correct.
race. And I think in following this quite closely, which we do here, in the last week or so, this word has come up again, the elites of the
Absolutely.
PC party. Is there a big divide between those elites, whoever they are, and the rank and file, the
There's
grassroots
huge-
membership?
There's a huge divide, and I'm finding that out more and more as I go talk to the grassroots people. They don't have a voice, the grassroots people. Make sure that they have concerns, they're going to be answered. Policies are going to be made up of the grassroots people. We aren't going to have a small group of the political insiders and the political elites that are sitting there, you know, waiting to have their jobs, waiting to give contracts to their buddies. The sole source deals, I've seen it over the years. That's done. These guys are gone.
Right.
No more political insiders waiting for contracts. It's unacceptable.
And that platform, you're talking about that people's guarantee that the PC. You aren't a huge fan of that platform.
Well, I'm concerned about it when we know 90% of our members are dead against this carbon tax. It's a terrible tax. Vast majority of people want the education curriculum changed. I was the first one to lead the way on both. And my competitors, you know, if I wasn't in the race, Joe, the carbon tax would still be there. The education curriculum would still be there. I look forward to, again, changing that, going through the policies. And it concerns me that, Joe, you're pretty good in politics. I've been around politics a long time. Have you ever seen a policy that's 80, 90 pages? Ours is 5 points, 5 simple points. We're going to reduce the size and cost of government. We're going to make sure the hospitals have resources and cut out wait times. We're going to cut down on hydro costs. We're going to revamp the education system, and we're going to get rid of that terrible carbon tax. And we're going to create jobs. We're going to create good paying jobs in Ontario. We've lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs under the McGuinty-Wynne Liberals. The environment here is terrible to open a company, and that's why companies are leaving. They're being taxed to death. The people of this province are being taxed to death. Enough with the tax. spend, spend, spend. Those days are over.
So on the carbon tax, and we were watching this quite closely, I believe that you were the first candidate in the PC leadership race to say you were opposed to it, and the others did subsequently after you say they were against it too. So just for the benefit of some people who may not be completely up to date on it, Ontario's introduced a cap and trade system, put a price on carbon. The federal government has said that any province that does not implement its own carbon regime, that the federal government would impose a tax, and that the provinces where those funds are collected from that carbon tax would go back to the provinces. You said during the leaders' debate that you would actually challenge the imposition of a federal carbon tax on Ontario. For people that are a bit, kind of calculating in their politics, it's been suggested to me that that would be a pretty sweet place for an Ontario Premier to be, in that the federal government would take the heat, the blame, for implementing a new carbon tax, but as the Premier of Ontario, your government would actually get the money and use it however you like. You're saying there shouldn't be a carbon tax at all?
No, there shouldn't be. That's a job-killing tax, and I can't believe the federal government would put that burden onto the backs of just not even businesses, but the people too. They put this word carbon in front of a tax. I don't even know why they put the word carbon in front of the tax. And as for the Prime Minister trying to force this on the provinces, I had a talk with our good friend Jason Kenney, the next Premier of Alberta, and the Premier of Saskatchewan, and myself. I'll tell you, the Prime Minister's going to have their hands full. If we have to go to the Supreme Court, we'll go to the Supreme Court. But we aren't going to burden the people of Ontario and the businesses with an unnecessary tax. It's a bad, bad tax.
Regardless of which level of government implements it, or what we call it, or you're just not in favor of that?
I'm not in favor of it. And just to compare myself with the other candidates, again, they would have had the carbon tax as sure as I'm sitting here if I didn't come out against it. The difference between myself and my opposition is they had to go and take polls, they had to do surveys, focus groups. I didn't. My focus group are the people. It's a bad tax. We aren't doing it.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you also mentioned the curriculum.
Yes.
So the comments that I read that were attributed to you were that you believe that the provincial curriculum and our education system should be based on facts and not on liberal ideology.
That's right.
So you can clarify if that was misreported or not. But
that's correct.
So then your critics immediately took that discussion to the sex ed curriculum and nothing else.
Yeah, so again, Joe, let's first of all start off with the math curriculum. Our students, grade 6 students, are at a 50% provincial standards. We should be the highest percentile in the entire world. We're failing our students. The Liberals think right away they're going to throw money at it, I can't remember, 60 million, 80 million. They're still at the 50% standards. That's unacceptable. We're going through the whole curriculum, top to bottom, and we're going to make sure that we have students that are going to be the top in the world. We have great students, but they need support. I've talked to teachers, numerous teachers. They aren't being listened to. They're being ignored by the government. They're frustrated. And as for the sex ed, again, if Doug Ford didn't come out and said, we have to make sure we revise this, look at it and get the parents involved, because the parents weren't consulted, the other two just wouldn't do it. And they're hesitant to do it. So you need to have a principled leader to move this province forward. There's one thing. I think the people have decided Kathleen Wynne's going. But just to replace Kathleen Wynne with another liberal-minded person and the same political insiders, the same establishment, the same old, is unacceptable. And those are my opponents. I'm going to bring comprehensive change. I'm going to save the taxpayers' money, put money back in the taxpayers' pocket. We'll leave no stone unturned. I'll make sure we hold the bureaucrats accountable. We're going to go down to Queen's Park and we're going to sanitize that place from top to bottom. All the backroom deals are done. Everything's going online. It's over. It's absolutely over. The party with the taxpayers' money is over. They can pack their loot bags up and go home.
So in your time in Toronto governments, at City Council, yourself and the Ford administration, your mantra was respect for taxpayers.
That's right.
If you're successful in becoming the leader of the PC party and then becoming premier, can we expect a similar sort of guiding philosophy in a forward government?
Absolutely. It's all about respecting the taxpayers. Our philosophy will never change. It's about respecting the taxpayers, putting money back into their pocket instead of the government's. The backroom deals, again, the sole source deals of billions of dollars to their friends, they're done. It's about making sure we have a transparent government, accountable government, and someone with integrity that's going to watch the taxpayers' money.
Okay.
That's what the people want.
And so on the subject of tax,
Yes.
in the first leaders debate, the subject of the minimum wage came up. And for people that may not know, the minimum wage went up to $14 an hour January 1st. Under the current legislation passed by the Wynne Liberals, it would go up to $15 an hour January 1st of next year. I think on that debate, you said that you wouldn't proceed with that legislated increase, but you had something interesting that we heard you say, that the way to help people that earn $14 an hour is to actually take them off of the provincial tax rolls.
That's right.
So I think, my math tells me, somebody who earns up to about 28,000.
28, 30,000. Those are roughly bi-weekly about $78. 25% of the people are making roughly that wage in the province. But my point is, Joe, you know, they were misled. They're hurting businesses. 60,000 people are losing their jobs over these new policies in Ontario. And people I talk to would rather have a paycheck than no paycheck at all.
Sure.
We're going to put money back in their pocket. The only people making money on this whole deal is the government.
Because their income level's gone up, so they pay more tax.
They pay more taxes, and it hurts the businesses, hurts the people. So when they leave the factory, or their office, or the restaurant they're working in, you know, they're going to have more money in their pocket when I give them a 0% tax than they would otherwise. And if you look at it, $78, roughly about $160 a month. That's a lot of money to people.
Sure, and so that would be consistent with your lower tax
That's right.
approach to government. And what we're going to do is we're going to, I want to get back to that in a second.
Sure.
We're just going to take a quick little break here and catch our breath,
Yeah,
as you've
yeah.
certainly given us lots to talk about and lots to think about. So
Yeah, good.
stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute with Doug Ford.
For 20 years, Sussex Strategy Group has helped companies and organizations navigate government and bring about successful policy change. Our team of experts understand that it takes more than meetings and phone calls to turn heads and change opinion. It takes insight, strategy, and deep domain knowledge to get things done. In a world that's constantly changing, one thing stays the same. Sussex Strategy Group helps you win. Visit sussex-strategy.com right now and let us help you today. Sussex Strategy Group, 20 years of getting you results.
See what else I have here. Okay, welcome back to the Sussex Ontario Election Show. We're joined today by Doug Ford, who is the candidate for the PC leadership in Ontario. Just before the break, we were talking about your plan to remove people who earn up to $30,000 from the provincial income tax rolls, without giving away any secrets. Do you foresee or contemplate other tax reductions going forward?
Middle class, the average middle class family is going to save 22% tax. Again, we feel, we're strong believers that all of us in Ontario can spend our money a lot wiser than the government. the government wants to blow their money, and I believe in stimulating the economy by putting money back in the taxpayer's pocket. They can go out and spend it the way they want. That will generate new income for the government as well.
Okay, so there are some elements maybe of the People's Guarantee, that platform that you might adopt going forward.
Absolutely. One is dental care for seniors. I think that's important.
Oh, tell us about that.
Dental care costs a fortune. I'm going across Ontario, that keeps coming up. So we're going to make sure that we take care of seniors. Seniors are the ones who built this province, who built this country. They can't be ignored. And again, they're feeling they're being ignored.
And it is something that is certainly, from a healthcare perspective, justifiable.
Absolutely,
for
it
Ontario
is.
to pay for it. All right. Well, I mean, it's good to know then that there are some. And on our show last week, I said to people, don't throw out your copy of the People's Guarantee just yet, because even though it looked like some major components of it were sort of going away, there will be elements of it that we can expect.
Oh, sure there is. I think there's some
Okay.
good elements too.
Now, given that you're a respect the taxpayer kind of guy, lower taxes, let people spend their money instead of government spending it, I need to circle back, because in the leaders debate on TVO, you near the beginning of it, you said, and you touched on it earlier in this show, that you draw support, you receive votes from people who are traditionally NDP voters and Liberal voters, in addition to PC or Conservative voters.
That's correct. That's correct.
Why do you think that is?
You know, the grassroots people, no matter if they're NDP voters or even Green or Liberals or a lot of the PCs, they don't have their voice heard. They aren't the ones donating $1,000 to campaigns and, able to pick up the phone. They don't have to donate a penny to us, and they can call us, and we'll pick up the phone. I give everyone that same number that Rob had, 416-233-6934. If you have a problem, you give us a call, we'll return your call. And their voice is going to be heard.
I've had people tell me that they called that number and you returned their call.
Yeah.
Or your late brother did when he was
absolutely.
mayor. All right, so you feel then that the people who feel like their voice isn't being heard, that their politicians are ignoring them,
That's right.
that you appeal to them. That's fair?
Absolutely. Our base is probably the most diverse base, culturally, politically, race-wise, right across the board. I love when we have the Ford Fest. You take a snapshot of that crowd, and it's the League of Nations. It's like a rainbow of every political stripe you can think of, every culture, race, creed, and I find it so amazing. I'd love to study it one time. They say Ford Nation. No one goes around carrying a little card that says Ford Nation, but it's interesting. It just amazes me.
Yeah. Clearly, there is support for your movement. You touched a second ago about on people making donations or not having to make donations.
Yes.
So earlier in the campaign, we caught that you, as a policy plank, put out there that you would actually end the taxpayer subsidies for the political parties.
That's correct.
Just for context, the donation limits used to be higher in this province, and corporations, unions, associations could make donations. Under the new regime, the limits were significantly lowered. Now corporations, unions, and associations cannot make donations.
That's right.
It's strictly personal. I guess as a bit of a trade-off or an offset, the political parties voted to subsidize on a per vote, based on how many votes they got in the last election, some operating funding. You would end that.
That's correct.
Now, tell us why, and would you increase the donation limits if you do end that subsidy?
No, I wouldn't. I don't want unions, corporations influencing elections, so I wouldn't change that. I keep it at $1,200. I would. There's one thing I would change. I think it's the most ridiculous rule I've ever seen. I think all parties agree that a local MPP or a candidate can't show up to their own fundraising event. And I can tell you, no one can buy me. No one can influence me. And I hope no one's going to influence other politicians. And one thing I wouldn't allow, if you're a minister or you're a premier, you can't go to these fundraising events. But if you're an MPP, you're a candidate, you have to be able to go to these events. I've never seen a crazier rule ever.
Now, I'm not sure, but do those rules even apply to the contest that you're in now? Like, you couldn't attend your own
That's correct.
fundraiser right now?
Yeah, that's correct. So we had an event yesterday, and I couldn't attend, and I appreciate everyone that could attend, but no, it's absolutely ridiculous, that rule.
Okay, so we need to touch on a couple of things. You have said that whether you win the leadership or not,
That's right.
you will be the PC candidate in Etobicoke North.
That's correct.
Are you
we're
nominated
obligated-
yet, or?
No. There's, I don't know, 22 more ridings throughout, or 30, or throughout the province that need nominations to move forward. I will be running. Again, we're very grateful for the trust that people of Etobicoke have put into our family, and I'll be representing them as a provincial candidate in the next election. I just have to make sure the other candidates feel the same way, and if they lose, they don't take off from the party and get a political appointment. You know, that's unacceptable from Kathleen Wynne. That is totally unacceptable.
Okay, so even if you're not successful, then it's Etobicoke North is right. There's
That's
three
correct.
ridings in Etobicoke.
That's right.
You'd be the candidate Etobicoke North.
That's correct.
And even if Christine Elliott, Patrick Brown, no matter who wins this leadership, obviously you think you're going to win it.
Yeah.
But in the event that you don't, you would still run.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm committed to the people of Etobicoke North.
Okay.
If I'm leader, I'm the only candidate that's going to win the 416. We're going to win seats in Scarborough, North York, as well as I believe York and Etobicoke for sure. But I'm even going this far. I believe we're going to win seats if I'm leader in East York, even possible pockets downtown. I truly believe it. The demographics downtown were very liberal NDP-ish.
Yeah.
Demographics are changed. A lot of young people are moving down there. They want to change, and I wouldn't rule out winning seats down in Toronto as well in the core. Again, when I become leader, we're going to sweep the province. I see it out there. When I'm in these rural areas, people are turning out in huge numbers, and I know that because when I talk to the locals, they're telling me politicians, former premiers, prime ministers come, they've never had crowds like this. There's a movement. This isn't a leadership race, this is a movement that's happening, and we're going to sweep Ontario, and we're going to make this the most prosperous province in the entire country. Matter of fact, in all of North America. We're going to bring prosperity to this province that it's never seen before. We're going to drive the businesses forward and create great jobs and put money back in the taxpayer's pocket. We're going to cut red tape and bureaucracy right across the board. We will be the engine of Canada once again. We were at one time, the engine was broken, we're a have-not province, but I'm going to go down to the border and I'm going to put a big neon sign up that says Ontario is open for business. Isn't it amazing how what's happening? Here down in the States, there's record unemployment, trillions of dollars are going into the country, and up in Ontario, it's come to Ontario. We're going to tax you to death with a carbon tax. We're going to give you the highest hydro rates. We're going to give you red and tape and bureaucracy, highest water rates. Again, perfect example is Campbell Soup down the street in Etobicoke. They're leaving because of all those reasons. We lost 300,000 jobs, manufacturing jobs. I'm bringing jobs back. Just like in the U.S., people said, oh, you couldn't bring manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing jobs are coming back into the U.S. They're coming back into Ontario. We have the greatest workforce in the world. All they need is a strong leader, and I'll be that leader to bring jobs back here.
Okay, well, since you mentioned it then, the PC party, really since, I guess the last time the PC party made a significant breakthrough in Toronto, and for people that are not in Toronto, just bear with us for a minute. We do have people across Ontario watching. The 1995 election, when your father was elected in Etobicoke, I think was the last time that the PC party made significant electoral gains in this city, and has been largely shut out.
Yes.
Provincially and maybe a little less so, but federally as well. You're from Toronto. Your principal opponents are from the GTA, shall we say, the broader GTA. Do you feel that you're the PC party's best chance to finally make that breakthrough in Toronto?
Absolutely. Not only I'm the only one that could have won 10 seats, I ended up winning 20 out of the 44 awards, and that was all done in about 4.5 weeks. And so that's 10 seats right there. I was instrumental in helping Raymond Cho get elected. I give all the credit to Raymond Cho because he works day in and day out, but I think we played a big part in that. And I'm the only candidate that's actually governed. Sitting in the opposition benches for 9 years as we lost every single election asking 3 or 4 questions, that's not experience. Experience is actually going down there, looking through the budget line item by line item, saving the taxpayers over $1 billion, making sure that you had a 0% tax increase in the first year. Finding, for the first day I was in there, they said to us, we're $774 million of pressure coming your way. Meaning they spent $774 million more than what they had. We found it, more than that, and we delivered a 0% tax increase, residential tax increase, the lowest in North America. We saved hundreds of millions of dollars on the labor deal. We outsourced the garbage, saving $88 million, west of Yonge Street. We ended up making sure that the TTC was declared a essential service, so it would never go on strike. We turned the city around, and unfortunately, it's gone back to the same old, same old.
Now, these would also be your answers to the question of how you would govern and get close to a balanced budget in Ontario without that carbon tax revenue. And I think in the TVO debate, you talked about finding efficiencies and reducing spending. The Ontario government's about $140 billion a year enterprise.
141.7. So, Joe, everywhere I'm going, I'm asking the same people from all different grassroots, all different areas, same question. I'll ask your listeners, do you think that we can find 3 or 4% in government, 3 or 4 cents on the dollar? The answer is yes, overwhelmingly.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure that going forward, you'll have the opportunity to debate that first with the other PC leadership candidates, and then if you are successful with Kathleen Wynne and Andrea Horwath. Now, I need to ask you, and this shows about you, but given what's transpired in the last week in the party, when you entered this race, you were entering a leadership contest to replace Patrick Brown.
Yes.
Now you find yourself running against Patrick Brown for the same job. Has this meant to you that you've had to shift your strategy or change your game plan at all, given his reemergence in the last week in this race?
Not at all. We have the same message. I don't care who's in this race. I'm zoned in on Kathleen Wynne. I'm zoned in on holding her accountable to the residents of Ontario. And I look forward to debating Kathleen Wynne and looking forward to turning this province around when I'm Premier.
Okay, so then his reemergence then doesn't change your 5 points, it doesn't change your
doesn't
strategy?
Even faze me. Doesn't even faze me. I don't care who's in this race, Joe. I'm focused on Kathleen Wynne, holding her accountable, and I'll hold her accountable. I'm the only one that will be able to stand up to Kathleen Wynne in a debate. Make no mistake about it, and she's a good debater. She's a hard worker. I respect the fact that she's a good campaigner, good worker, but she's never been in the ring with Doug Ford. The other candidates are a lot weaker than I am. I went through the best training program there is in Canada. That's called the City Hall. All you do is debate. No matter if you're left, right, center, it's the best training ground anywhere for debating. You debate in the halls, you debate in the council, all you do is debate down at City Hall.
In fact, I'm aware of that. That's why I do Ontario work, because too much arguing going on at City Hall.
I agree.
We let other people here at Sussex do municipal work. All right, then. So we're getting to the point now. You have a debate on the 28th. The voting is, I think, March 2nd to March 8th, and then the winner will be announced March the 10th. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about the voting and the voting process, even your own supporters? It may not be clear how all of that works.
Oh, well, all 3 candidates, or 4 or 5 candidates, can't even keep track of them all now, so 5 candidates, they all agree. This is the most crazy voting system I've ever seen in any party. It's the most complicated system. We have to go back to traditional voting. You check off the person on a piece of paper, you have your scrutineers, you add up the votes, and that's it. So what the party, these so-called geniuses at the party, put together electronic voting. So it's so complicated that
first of all, it's a two-step process. You get your ID, you're supposed to take a picture of it, somehow transfer it over to your computer. After you get your PIN number and get it verified, then they give you an opportunity to vote, and then you vote, and then you email it in. So I'll give you an example. Frank Cleese, everyone knows Frank Cleese, smart guy, really smart guy actually. Calls me last night, he goes, Doug, I got my information, I tried to go online, it took me 2 hours, I called the party, you wouldn't believe what they said. Well, on your PIN number, you have to change the 0 to an O, and the 2, you have to change it to a Z. What? Do you know how many seniors have called me saying they don't have computers? And even people that are half computer literate are saying, how do I take a picture of my ID, take that piece, transfer it over to my voting form, fit it in, and then vote? Like, what is the PC party trying to do? Are they trying to kill our base, try to kill our grassroots people? A lot of people aren't computer literate. Frank, smart guy, he was having massive problems doing it. And, unless you're some IT expert, this isn't going to fly. What they're trying to do is, I guess, keep the grassroots people that aren't that computer literate away from voting. I can't figure this out. But I'm going to be voicing my opinion on this loud and clear, and I'm sure the other candidates will. Let's get back down to the basics. Go into voting.
Is it a function, though, of the shortened period that you don't have enough
It's
time
just
to do it?
absolute, just an excuse. The party should be out and all the ridings have a voting station. People go and vote. You have your scrutineers, they count the votes, it's done. It's nonsense the way they've come up with this, and we have our people working with the party, but massive problems at the party right now.
Okay. Last thing, just before we conclude, I want to thank you for giving us your time today. We're here, we're unfiltered, we're on the internet. There's whatever you say is going straight to people. So is there any last kind of message or last thing you want to say? Some of your supporters are likely watching today.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say to the people before we wrap it up?
Sure. Well, my friends, we're facing an opportunity here to change this province. The province has spoken loud and clear. Kathleen Wynne is on her way out. The question is, do you want to replace Kathleen Wynne with someone very similar? I call them liberal light, which all my opponents are, that will still have the political insiders, still have the political establishment down there, the same bureaucracy, and just fall in line. It's one thing to get rid of the liberal government, it's another thing to just put liberal light in there. I will bring comprehensive change. I will reduce taxes. I will put money back into your pocket. I'll create good paying jobs. We'll fix the healthcare system and the education system, and we'll drive prosperity in this province that it's never seen before. We will make sure that we put in policies that will be beneficial to each and every one of you. We have one opportunity. Let's not lose it. Let's move this province forward. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking to vote for Doug Ford in this leadership race. We will win. We'll win a majority. Thank you very much.
All right. And on that note, thank you, Doug Ford, for giving us your time and sharing your thoughts with us. To the folks watching on their computer, it's only internet.
Yes.
Join us again next Friday. During the course of these shows, we will have people who are seeking office from the different parties. We will have pollsters. We will have subject matter experts. I think it's safe to say that between now and March 10th, the PC leadership race is the most interesting to people that watch us. So good luck the rest of the way. Good luck at the debates.
And thanks for having me in, Joe.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Take care.
That was great. Very well done.